Welcome back to 4 High Garage, where I have 4 months to turn that into that. Let's get started. All right, on the right here we have the original TextJ and all the years of work that I've put into it. Front to back, lots of stuff on the underside. On the left here, pretty much a bone stock XJ. I think it's sitting on a little bit of a lift. I think we've got like a 1.5 inch lift. We've got some Old Man Emu springs back here that leaf was removed to get it to sit relatively level. And there's the reason why I have to do it. Some lady decided she wasn't going to pay attention to all of us sitting at a traffic light and just plowed right into me. This damage goes all the way into the body because it's a unibody. Pulling up the carpet and fa-donk. Look at that. Coming out on the camera. You can see the pinch right here and the buckle right here. And tweaked everything. Passenger rear door barely will open. This one won't open at all. There's a mile-high gap right here. And it's just a mess. Rear window shattered. The rear bumper, hopefully I can bend it back into shape. It's currently off by a little. These two are supposed to meet, and that lines this up. So as the door closes, it just closes into that. But I can see how dented that is. So yeah, I don't know how much of her car hit the actual arm. Definitely hit the corner, obviously. So I don't know what that means for that. That may mean that a whole new bumper gets built. So we'll just see. What else? I've done a whole list of things. I've done a slip yoke eliminator. I've done skid plates for the transfer case, the gas tank. Currently doesn't have the front skid plate, but it does have a front skid plate. I've done the WJ knuckle swap with WJ brakes. I've done the cab fab upgraded steering. I've done the WJ pump, whole WJ steering, basically. A friend of mine laughed and said, "Why didn't you just get a WJ?"
Why didn't you just buy a WJ?
Because it's not as cool as an XJ. That's why. I've already torn into it a little bit because we took the new, to me, Jeep on our camping trip to Big Bend. So I already pulled out a lot of the internal electrical stuff. I'll show that in here in a minute, but I've done the headliner in this one. I'll probably just pull the headliner out of this and move it over since all the headliners fall. That one hasn't fallen yet. I can't remember if they told me that they replaced that one. All kinds of just little odds and ends of things that, you know, just make it more enjoyable. So this is the camping box with a secondary battery set up to run the fridge. There we go. Drawer. Refrigerator. I did move the whole center console already because I had riveted the fire extinguisher on, and I've got some outlets back here for the long trips. Kids can charge their devices, that kind of thing. Underneath I've got, oh, I'm not going to be able to see it, of course. Underneath the seat is the inverter, a power cutoff, and then this is like a one-way valve for electricity. So the car battery doesn't die if the refrigerator keeps pulling juice. So anyway, now I can see that there's about a 2-inch lift more. It's hard to tell because with that back corner smashed, it kind of tweaks that back corner, but I'm still looking at hood lines and they're about 2 inches taller. So I'm definitely pulling the lift kit off of this onto this with some exception, and that's because of the rear shackle problem. And so I went ahead and bought a shackle drop kit and a combination of the springs that are in that, the lift the shackle drop kit gives, maybe even a longer shackle. I'm hoping to obtain the same lift that these rear leaf springs provide and level it out. So it's just going to be playing with all of that stuff, maybe throwing the other leaf that got pulled out back in it. You know, any of that stuff could end up being what achieves me the same height as the front springs that will go over onto this one. And then while I'm in there, there's little things that need to be done. Of course, with the transfer case being moved over to, because I've got a slip yoke eliminator over here and not over there, I'm going to plumb the breather system. I've got a kit for the breather system already in this Jeep, and it's good, but it could be better. So I'm going to redo that. The new Jeep's got a rear main seal leak, so while I've got the axle out, because I'm just going to replace front axle with front axle, since that cab fab kit requires you to drill out your knuckle mounting points for your track bar and whatnot to a bolt style instead of the tapered style. It's just going to be easier to move axles. And if I've got that axle and the new Jeep out, then it's going to be super easy to do a rear main seal. And I'll kind of take you guys along on that as well. And anything else that I can think of that I can't think of right now at this particular moment, they'll get spliced in, or its own video, or I don't know. Really, I don't know. Just winging it here. That's how it works, right? Okay. That's the list, basically. I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff, but it's going to take several weekends to get wrapped up, and I've got a family and a 9-to-5 job, so gonna be able to work on it as many weekends as I can, and that's why the 4 months is actually kind of a short period of time. So no time to waste. Let's get at it. Okay, let's get on around to the side yard and remove that built rear bumper on the busted XJ.
Oh, goodness. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's got some weight, but I got it.
Yeah.
All right. And hooked everything. Just cut myself with broken glass.
Again?
Yep. Oh, she did get bent. The bracket got a little bented. There we go. Now we can get to it. So that's reassuring. I removed that one, but those weren't there, and those weren't there. But it worked. Don't know if you'll be able to see it, but that sucker is cooked. So we'll have to figure something out there. Many of these look not great. All I'm doing is using one of these little kits to kind of pre-clean the threads. And then I'm going to chase it with this, and if I have to tap, I'll tap it. So we'll see. I think there might be just enough thread between all the hold down points. Having one bad hole isn't going to be the end of the world. We'll just put a little red Loctite on these guys and send them in. Okay, we got it out, dragged around, and this is the corner I got hit in. You can clearly see the bent bracket. It should be straight like this other bracket. Good news is I don't see any warping of the metal as if this got bent up. It looks like this took the blunt, the force, and the majority of the damage was right here in the stop for the swing tire swing arm. So I'll have to, I think after I fix the bracket, I think all I'm gonna have to do is cut this out and replace it with a new piece, weld it in, and I think that's gonna be the fix. So that's really good news, honestly. All right, let's see how we can fix this bracket. Okay, right away I found that there's a bit of cracking in here. So first step, bend it straight, then I'll get the grinder, grind out the crack, weld it up. That's not too bad, given I can't really get back to that weld to cut it. There's a deep gouge here. A little bit of welding will fill that. Okay. Got her pretty much cleaned up. A little bit of scarring. Alright, now that this is broken off, you can really see the whack it took. So, fortunately, even though this was a long time ago, I still have some leftover bar. So, let's build a new piece. Anybody else out there have a perfectly good workbench in the garage and still end up working on top of the trash can? It's a thing. Alright, next step is to remind myself how I wired in the light for the license plate. Pull all this apart and then drag it over to that one. Okay, so here's my connector, so I could disconnect the bumper, pull the swing armor if I have to, from that license plate light, and it travels in. This is my green and white wire. My green wire I traced over to a mutual ground, and the white is positive, and I think it is spliced in somewhere in the column here. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip the, actually I probably won't snip the green. I'll probably reuse a ground kind of like that. I'm going to snip the white wire, pull this whole thing out, and then splice it into the other Jeep. Okay. I just popped the cap off the other side and pulled the whole thing over. It's a short wiring harness with the positive and ground. Ran it through, put the cap on this side. Simple as that. Now to splice it and wire it in. Okay, I traced it back. I know this looks like it's going down, but it's actually the wiring harness. I kind of just undid it from all along here to make it loose. Traced it back to the plug that plugs in right here at a juncture. I unpinned it, snipped off, I don't know, about 3 inches, and now I'm just going to splice it in. And then right from the factory, it'll trigger the license plate light that is out on the tire swing arm. So let's get it all together. Got it all soldered up, put back into the plug back into the main harness. And now out here at my new plug, I've got power. Can you see that? Power. No power. Power. So we're good to go. Okay, so part of what I'm taking down is also this skid plate. So we're gonna put some pressure on it so it doesn't fall on my head.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm gonna see. Oh. Can I get up in here? Maybe not. Oh. Oh. Safety squints.
Yes. You need the safety goggles over your glasses.
Yeah. All right, so this just falls.
I could see the little flange is bent that way.
Yeah, might
But
straighten up after I get that kind of whack. You just want to hold on to it.
yeah.
It needs to be kind of flat like that.
Okay.
You got your hearing aids turned off?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
She's a beaut, Clark. Switch. Step to the side. Blocking the camera. Oh. Messing up the shot.
That is an unforgivable sin.
Spielberg will never forgive you.
Yes.
Got the bumper all bolted up, looking good. Began the replacement process for the stop. That's the busted one. Here's going to be the replacement piece. We'll go right there. Just need to get the replacement arm up, eyeball it out, and measure once, cut twice, that kind of thing. It'll be hard to see, but I want to make sure that I am just off of. I want to make sure I'm just off of this from the table, so just fold up a piece of paper and I'll tape it. And that should give me the perfect amount of spacing from this guy. Let's see if that'll show up on camera. Nope. Bunk. Okay, with a flashlight, now you can see what I'm doing. So, just using that folded up piece of paper to give just enough spacing between this guy and the wiper blade so the wiper blade works. And I'll use the magnet to further secure it. Like that. Let's see how close I came. Yeah. I'm gonna think about a couple places to tack it, and then we'll calculate where the hook part goes, which is inside the back of the Jeep, of course. Alrighty, got it all welded up. Don't hate on me for my welds too much. There was some gappage that needed to be filled, but hey, it's not really that structural. It ain't going nowhere. Masked off a little bit to give a little quick coat of paint. Nothing special. Let's knock that out real quick. There she is, all wrapped up. Just uses a little geometry. Science. As I mentioned before, I did the drop shackle bracket relocation kit, or one of them, and I went into detail on that one. So it's an independent video, and I'll put a link in the description for that if you're interested in watching that. But from this video's perspective, we've already installed it. Let's keep going. All right, I'm back. However long it's been for you, it's instantaneous. For me, it's this much life. Anyway, today we're gonna yank out the front axle. Let's get to it. Front axle is removed. Look at all this room for activities. I could do some breakdancing. No, not at my age. I'm likely to break a hip. No, actually, this nice concrete and hidey hole just makes me want to crawl under it and nap. That's my age. Anyhow, so the next thing I'm going to do before I keep going on this video is a rear main seal fix. As you can see, it's dripping already. However, I'm going to go into depth on that. That'll be its own independent video, and I'll put a link to that in the description if you're interested in checking out how to do a rear main seal. Otherwise, let's continue on. Right, where were we? Oh, yeah, rear main seal done. No problems there. Oh, now I got it wedged. Way to go. All right, on to the next thing. All right, another day, another piece of the puzzle. I forgot to line out rear main seal fix. Oh, so satisfying. I think what I'm going to tackle now, which I probably should have done pretty early, is the swapping the transfer cases. The old Jeep It's got a slip yoke, too early. SYE slip yoke eliminator kit installed in it because of the lift, and the new one doesn't. So you got to pull the transfer case out. I mean, I guess I've seen videos where they did the kit with the transfer case in it, but I'm pulling transfer cases anyway. Might as well just swap it and save myself $200 or whatever it is. That way, if I need to order a drive shaft ahead of schedule, that's why I should probably have done it first up. I don't think I do, but I don't know. So it's going to be a long weekend, but let's get to it. All right, ran into a little bit of a problem. I found this on Amazon for pretty cheap, $70-ish. Much cheaper than $200 transmission jack because I got a perfectly good jack. However, it was designed to, where's my pieces? This kind of went in here and I didn't wait to film. This was welded there before I cut it off, and that was supposed to slip down into the hole that goes here, but I don't have that. I've got a threaded thing. So that never went down in there. So now I have built a plate out of a similar thickness so that the plate will still spin, and that little choppy on some square tubing that'll give me room to get a wrench in there, and then weld that guy like that, and I should be good to go. There we have it. Basically added this extension, cut an opening so I can get a wrench in there, and it still spins. Now it works on my jack. Well, we'll see if it works. Let's put it to use. So far it's working like a champ. Just to the transmission cross member and unplugging all this stuff. I think I can finally start unbolting the actual transfer case. Oh my God. Oh, this is gonna be to get out. Oh, it's gonna come right out. Look at this. Oh, it's gonna come right out. Oh yeah, just like that. Whoa. Oh. Well, clearly I figured out my failings in transmission jack adapter 1.0. So we will have to come up with a plan. Pretty good position to drain it. Let's drain it. Woohoo! Now we'll make a little bit less of a mess. Alright. See how I can hurt myself.
Look at the size of that boy's head. I'm not kidding, it's like an orange on a toothpick.
You're gonna give the boy a complex.
Well, that's a huge noggin. It's a virtual planetoid. Has its own weather system. Hauling that gargantuan cranium about.
Well, that was offside, wasn't it? He'll be crying himself to sleep tonight on his huge pillow.
Okay, got the transfer case out of the rear-ended Jeep that's got the slip yoke eliminator in it. Ready to slide it under, and I think I'm just going to bench press it in. Now I've moved these two around. They've got some weight to them, but I feel confident I can just get it up on my chest, bench press it up and into place. I don't know, we'll put a camera on me and see if I bust my face.
My ribs. Okay. Let's try it this way. That's better. That's better. A little too close to my face. Holy shit, that worked. I can't freaking believe it. Get a couple of nuts on. Okay, she's in. I got her good. Well, nothing ever goes in smoothly, and this cross member came out of the automatic because I've got some nut certs in it for the skid plate, and it should be the same. The other cross member is in the automatic, holding up the automatic, and went in just fine. This one was tweaked, and I don't know if it's just the motor, everything kind of shifted and moved around, probably is the reason, but I could get it up on this. There's one stud over here, and I could get it, bolt or nut started the four under here and on that stud, but this end was tweaked, so I figured out what these holes are for, and these holes are so, here's one on the other side here, so you can run a ratchet strap all the way up front and then just tick until they lined up, and we're good to go now. So now to measure for a drive shaft, see if one I've got will work or if I need to special order one. Well, at $20 a pop, I decided to get two because they look different, and they look different in person, and I figured if I liked one over the other, I'd run that, keep the other as a backup just in case. At that price break, it's easy enough. And they are different. One appears to be floating in a brass bushing, which I definitely like more than this is. I'm going to say it's a fancy Delrin bushing. But to be truth, I don't know what kind of polymer that is, but it is clearly some kind of plastic polymer that's in there. Anyway, I thought I'd share that these Amazon units are different, and depending on what you want, you might keep an eye on that. Also, I'll let you know how they go as far as an install, but they look to be identical. Okay, so the first problem, hopefully the only problem I came across so far on this super cheap kit, is that this machined opening is just a little sloppy on the transfer case. See how sloppy that is? And at rest, it's hitting the back of the transfer case here. And so, since I have two, I decided to trim until it no longer hit. And see, I got a bit of a gap there. But that is quite a lot to trim off. I mean, so much so that the nut might actually hit the transfer case at that point. So I don't know. I don't know what to do about that other than bolt it up and hope for the best. All right, there it is, bolted up. Plenty of clearance, as you can see. And I think there'll be just enough clearance for the bolt, excuse me, the nut as well. So I feel good about that. Okay, let me see if I can get this to come through on the camera. So I've got a 5-speed, which they talk about the distance between the bracket on the transfer case and the shifter bracket being too short, which is my case. They've got this, see that laser cut out piece right there? It's flat, but you punch it down so that it's kind of like these tabs here. And they talk about after you do that, you mount it like this so that that push down tab is then this edge's catch, kind of like this design, which is not a bad design. I like it. But there's nothing to catch the other side, and they're claiming that just the bite of this into the metal, the pressure is enough to keep it. And I'm not sure I trust that. And I don't really like the placement of how that sits. I mean, it could just run and go, but here at Mediocre Fab, I can do a little bit more, and I think cutting this off and then relocating it, this end of it, just over is the way to go. So I need a Sharpie and some tools, and we'll see how it turns out. But if not, we'll go with what they suggest, because I bought two. Ultimately, what I ended up doing was cutting this tab off right here, and then finding some bar stock that's this length, and then just welding it in here and welding it in here and just moving the tab over. And I think that's gonna work better than their original plan. So we'll get it mounted up, see how it goes. Alright, should be in 4 low. Let's see. Just transfer it through, slowly go through to the different, I think the next one's neutral. Is it okay? Do you feel it kind of clicking in? There you go. That should be 4 high. Now that's too high. Go back to 2 high. Yeah. Really? Yeah. What's that right now? That's too high. Yeah. All the way forward should be too high. Yeah. All right. Trying to determine whether or not. Yeah, I think that's fine. It kind of looks like a nut hits the transfer case over here. So, but it feels like it clicked in. Does it? Yeah, go through one more time. Uh huh. What is that now? I don't. Go by feeling of the click. Let me see. That feels like it clicked into like 4 high. Was it? 4 high. Okay. I went past it. Okay, so that should be 2 high. That's 2. Uh huh. Then feel for the click. Okay. That's 4. Uh huh. That should be neutral. That's neutral. Okay, hang on. Let me test. That definitely feels like neutral on the transfer case. Yeah. Okay. Ready for more low? Yeah. Wait a minute. That's 4 low. Yeah, that should be right. That should be neutral.
That's neutral.
That's 4 high.
4 high,
And that's 2 high.
2 high.
All right. It looks like it's going to work. I'll bring spare parts in case.
Weird. I thought it was in neutral, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
That first time.
Do me, I'm going to do one other thing just to ease my mind. Put it into 4 low.
That's neutral, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's 4 low.
Okay. And then I think I'm going to take this off and then put some red Loctite on it because it's just not quite sticking that bolt through. So, all right. And then that should do it. Cool. So I think the problem we were having is that this doesn't quite line up with this in the shifting. So that's 2 high. And then that clicked into 4 high. I can feel it click into 4 high. And then, let's see, 4 high. See, that's neutral. And see how it looks like it's more like 4 high when that's clearly neutral. And then that's 4 low. So it's weird that neutral kind of lines up with 4 high. 4 high kind of sits maybe between 2 high and 4 high. And then 2 high is way up there. But, you know, it's still better than the stock stuff.
Several long days later.
We have been busy bees this weekend. Didn't do a lot of filming because I don't have a cameraman, and trying to make this whole series an hour-ish. If I can keep it to an hour, that'd be great because there's a lot to go over. But BFH worked on trimming the fenders. This was his first go-around. Looks perfect. I think the next 3 will go pretty quickly. In the back, my buddy John working on doing the last bit of wiring up back through here. I've got some LED lighting that goes in the hatch. So he's been going to town in there. All right, so, and then today I've been working on one of the bigger pains in the butts was this emergency brake cable. Remember, this is a prepping this Jeep, getting ready for a trip to Colorado. Our plan is to do Black Bear Pass. That is a bucket list item for me. And I don't know what was going on here with this old cable, but that, you could see that. So that was pretty much a requirement. Given this is a 5-speed, if I have to stop and get out on Black Bear Pass, I do not want my parking brake cable to fail on me. So while I'm in here, and of course, if you've ever had to deal with this 3-prong nightmare, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That's taken most of the morning. This afternoon, after I got that done, I've been working on popping in longer studs for a spacer. I've got a whole video on this. Here is the doorman part number for the longer studs. The spacer is a requirement if you're going to do like I do, run the JL Rubicon rims. JK, JL, I think their back spacing are pretty much the same. Of course, it's a 5-on-5 lug pattern, so you need an adapter, but because it's a different back spacing, offset, whatever, you actually have to have the spacer regardless. So on the old Jeep that got rear-ended, that front is the WJ knuckle and brake system, and that's a 5-on-5 too, but I still need a spacer in order to get everything to look right and fit and turn and do all the magical stuff Jeeps do. So in the back here, in the front, the studs are long enough. In the back, they are not adequate. So when you put the brake drum on, you put your wheel spacer in, you've got maybe just a 1/2 inch of thread or so. It's basically half of the lug nut thread, and you really want full engagement. So you get a longer stud, and I've already done the other side so you can see. Oh, can't go that way. After that drum is in place, that stud is flush. Not that that matters, because there's actually a little cavity here on the rim, but you know, depending on what rim you ran, if it's actually not flush, it's maybe a washer thickness sticking out. If for whatever reason it needed to be flush, there is that non-threaded tip to that stud. You can just grind it off, cut it off, whatever you want to do. Trim it down. Anyways, full engagement, we're good to go. Next weekend is 4th of July weekend, nice long weekend, and we will be tackling the front axle, moving that axle over there, under here, getting it all set up. So let's get to that.
All right. Well, I got her out of there.
And she be for now. Get her bolted up and in, hopefully today. Replaced upper control arm. Move lower control arm. I need to bleed brake still. Still need to do fender flares. Moved track bar. Moved rims and tires, even though they're going to come right back off. Still working on that. Actually, I'm just going to line this out because I'm not going to do it.
What was that?
The move under hood fuse panel, but John had already installed one. So I don't need to move my other one. I don't need new brake hoses. I need to order the new drive shaft. Need to do that. Move headlights. Self tappers on heat shield. Fix AC.
Oh,
So-
really? I thought you already did that.
No, that did that on the Tahoe.
The next day.
All right, status update. Over the 4th of July weekend, I really wish I had set up a camera and just did time lapse of the whole garage, because I had all the guys over, had most of one of the days, and I think some of them came over a couple extra days, and we got all the fenders cut behind the plastic panels. I do have quite a bit of rust here that I'm going to have to address. So yeah, we are ready to just kind of touch up paint so that it doesn't really rust. And then we can slap the Bushwhacker fender flares on. We got the halogen headlights moved over, that whole wiring harness pulled out, and the other Jeep and put into this Jeep. Of course, got the front axle in, and the calipers moved over. The brakes bled. I did a full nut and bolt check underneath. Checked all the fluids. I definitely had to add fluid in the transfer case and transmission. I think I just went ahead and did a transmission fluid change. And let's see, what else? Got all that done. This is even worse over here. It comes way back, all the way back to the back corner here. Need to pull off this stuff. And in the back, we got my LED camping lights all set up. I don't know if it's going to come through, but got a switch here. And boom, there we go. So that's that. Got it. I don't know. Feel like there's a handful of other things that I'm forgetting. Lots of little things I'm sure got knocked out this weekend, and it's just escaping my mind. But that's kind of where we're at. We still have quite a bit more to do, but we're getting pretty close to wrapping this thing up. So on to the next thing. All right, we need to tackle this. And the most common fix for this, this tight little spot back here. The most common fix for this is the fold and tuck, or I don't know what they call it, where you're basically, let me get this light situated. You're basically cutting across this line and then folding everything up to give you more ground clearance. And that's great if you're got like an aftermarket little stubby bumper and you're building a rock crawler and you need all the ground clearance you can get. But that's not what we do. So I want to actually fix this. So if you're an auto body mechanic, specialist, work in that industry, just turn this video off now because you don't want to see it. Essentially, it'll be fixed. But it'll be good from far and far from good. I think what I'm going to do is, because I need to retain that hole, I'm going to cut right here and then cut right here, try to parallel this line up to this seam. And I'm going to come all the way across, and I'm going to come all the way down this outer edge and all the way under. And once I get that removed, I'll be able to see inside better. I mean, I can already see I need to replace a chunk of this. But how much? Do I need to cut out just the same amount or just this little corner? So, and I'm going to try to videotape. It's going to be a boring time-lapse kind of thing, but it'll be better than what this is right now. If you're familiar with XJ's, dust, because this is open to the cab, like I can reach up in there and touch the inside plastic panel up there. Dust just gets up into the cab if this has got an opening, and I don't want to do the tuck because I've got an actual bumper, and that would just look weird. And then my Bushwhacker fender flares come down actually all the way down to the end here. So again, they would just look weird. So we'll get to it now. Hopefully I can videotape it decently. Alright, so you can see it's not too bad. I think I'll probably just have to cut out this part right in through here. I'm definitely cutting that out. So I think I'm going to trim this out, and once I've trimmed that out, I'll take a wire wheel in here and see how it looks. Okay, there we are, chopped out. Hope to make a piece that'll go right here, and I'm going to hopefully bend a 90 and kind of make this piece right there. I don't know. We'll see, but it needs to come down to here and go up to there. So I think if I can do my mathematicals, I can figure out that piece. Man, if I could, that'll be probably way too complicated to get it to come up like a third bend. I don't know. We'll play around with some cardboard, see if I can't get that to work. I am not going to film the cardboard because that takes a lot of time, but I'll come back with what I sort of cut out. All right, I think I got it approximately enough, but there's a lot of bends. I'm going to smash this down so it's flat. There's this angle, and then right here at the end, it cuts down straight. I've got this over here. I'm going to have to figure out some way to kind of patch that gap here. Probably cut a little piece to just kind of hold in there with a magnet and tack into place. I tried to cut this angle because you can come over here. You can see it kicks in right here. It's just part of the body line. It does it over here too, but you know, I'm holding, you can kind of see the body line right here. I'm holding everything up and trying my best to, I mean, everything on here is basically done with a micrometer, and I don't trust mine is calibrated anymore. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this rough shape, but cut it long, like by an extra ½ inch. And that way, when I build this piece on the outside, I've got room to trim it off. And so made myself a little note. I cut here a little short. You can see it kind of kicks up. So just made little notes to myself to, as I'm cutting the metal, to make some adjustments to it. And yeah, I'll bring you in here when I start tacking it all into place. Okay, I think I've got my initial piece cut. When I cut long, I cut too long, but that's okay. We'll come back and trim it. Same here. Cut too long. So I think what we'll do is we'll make this outer panel, line it up against this, and then mark it and figure out, you know, where I need to trim off after I've made that outer panel. And I'll still have to figure out how to do whatever that little plug is, but that won't be hard. That's just a little chunk, and everything is behind stuff. So anyway, let's get to it. All right, little inside prep paint. Getting ready for the outer piece to be welded on, which I have over here. Also painted and getting ready. So let that dry, and then I'll time lapse tacking it on. There we go. It's not, you know, it's not Concours level good, but, you know, like I said, it's good from far and far from good. It'll get the job done. Took care of the rust holes. Flat black hides a lot. And, before I filmed, I did the other side, but the other side had about the same kind of rust going on there, which is pretty common. Okay, on to the next thing. Oh man, that thing moves so nice. Oh, wow. That was almost a that was almost a tragedy. Oh, almost got myself concussed.
ninja-like reflexes. Gonna zero it out on the drive shaft. 0. There we go. That's 0. And here is 2 degrees. We'll call it 2 degrees. And that's what they call for a 2-degree separation on Adams Drive Shaft's website if you're running leaf springs. So they want a 2-degree difference right here is what they recommend on their website, which way it's set up just magically made 2 degrees. I don't know how that happened, but you can buy 2-degree shims to correct if that's what you need. Actually, you can buy multiple degree shims, so depending on your situation, that's what they want. Whew, this video is getting long. Let's take a snack break. What's in the snack pocket? Ooh, popcorn. Let's watch a movie. What's on? Really? Woo! Excellent progress this weekend. Obviously, we got the front bumper on. Still working on wiring up the Warren winch up front, so that still needs to be done. Got the fender flares in. Thank you, BFH and Steve, for helping get those knocked out quickly. What else? Lots of like little buttoning up things. Like I moved the working AC system from the rear end of Jeep over to here. And I don't know if that's gonna, actually work. I mean, maybe it'll work for a month, maybe it'll work for years. Maybe it won't work at all. I don't know. But the right way to do it is to drop like $400 on all new everything and have fantastic AC. It's not impossible to save up and do, but right now before the trip, not something I would like to drop that money on. So I didn't. And we'll just see if this works. And maybe after the trip, if it didn't work, I'll shell out $400 to get all new stuff. Hopefully by Friday coming up, I'll be able to get it aligned and we'll be on the road. And from there, we'll just see whether or not I can get the last little bit of the things moved over, like the rock sliders, the headliner, some of the things that aren't like absolutely necessary for this trip, since it's not going to be real. I mean, we're just cruising through the mountains of Colorado. I mean, and that's mostly maintained road. So anyways, I ramble. All right, switching. It's the final countdown. All right, this is it's a stock skid plate off of ZJ. Got it around backwards. Anyway, I reused the cross member out of the other Jeep so I could grab my 2 mount holes, and then I think I have to put them out, a drill, and put a nut cert in the frame. So I'm gonna swing it up and then mark my spot, take it down, and put my nut cert in. All right, here we go. There she is. Another item off the list. Winch controller under the hood. Got it all wired up. Let's see if it works. Oh yeah. Nice. Excellent. Got the breather lines hooked up.
So ARB sells this little kit, although they're plastic kind of semi-hard lines kind of stink. They tend to melt if they get too warm. One line comes straight up from the front differential. I just didn't have enough other line to go from the rear differential all the way up to the front, and the transfer case to come all the way up to the front. So I went from rear to a T where the transfer case teed into, and then one line from the rear and the transfer case on up to this unit. And I don't see why that would be a problem, because the transfer case is at the top and it kind of goes up to the tunnel and then down to the T, and the rear kind of comes along the frame rail. I'm just dropping everything. And so I don't see any problem with that. If it is, somebody leave a comment and let me know. Okay, now that we've got everything buttoned up underneath, hopefully we can fire it up and test everything out. See if it's supposed to go. Even. All right. Is it neutral? What was that? What sounded like the world's worst vacuum leak? Let's try it again. Let's come around and just see what I see. I don't know why, but it sounds like it's coming from around the throttle body. I don't see anything there. Huh. I'll start her up and see what it sounds like. Ah! Found it. Maybe? Yep. It was the worst vacuum leak. So, I'm so bad with the camera. Yeah, you can't even see in there. So somewhere in the process, this guy came unhooked from that guy. And that 90-degree elbow is pretty flimsy. But that's what it was. Let's try this again now that we solved the vacuum leak. Oi! Alright, it currently should be in two-wheel drive. So that's too high. Yeah. Yes. That's too high. That's 4 high. That's neutral. It's 4 low. Way back there. Okay. My only beef with that aftermarket Amazon Heim joint style transfer case shifting linkage is that whatever the science was for figuring out how to get this to shift into the different positions and line up with each of these marks isn't correct. And it's probably partly from my modifications I had to do to it, but you can feel it click into each, and you're just gonna have to get used to it. They just don't line up with each of these. So it works. It just is what it is. And the old Jeep, I had a low car cable driven style, but it's a little bit more involved in terms of installing, and I wanted to try this out. So I'll give this a run for a bit, but I may end up going back to that low car cable style just because my OCD demands it. We are in the final stretch. A week from today, we'll be heading off to Colorado. Spend a week based out of Ouray, doing all the mountain passes. So looking forward to it. So, last little bit that we need to get done. We're gonna swap headliners is what we're gonna do. There's nothing really wrong with the headliner in this one. I just really like the pattern I did when I redid the headliner in the other Jeep. And this is where you guys are gonna give me crap, but this current headliner has the overhead console, which a lot of people just love. This one needs a little bit of attention, but I don't know if it's my left brain or what. I'm just like, it just takes up a lot of space. And where this sits, I'd really like to hang my Midland radio, which I did in the other Jeep. And I don't really need any of this. I don't need the compass and the how many miles per gallon I'm getting, all that stuff. It's kind of cool. So I've removed it and I've plucked the wiring out, figured out which wires are the only wires that operate the lights for this. And then I also figured out the plug for the remote is the same. I've even plugged this thing in to this Jeep and used the old remotes, and it works great. So that's not a problem. I don't have to worry about that wiring. I just need to worry about the dome lighting, which is these three wires. So I'll splice that together so that this can just plug in, and this will just kind of be tucked up under the headliner. And maybe one day I'll figure something out here and maybe integrate it somehow with some sort of custom setup. I don't know. There's not a lot of dash room in the XJ, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll just kind of keep it all together and we'll see down the road. The other thing we want to knock out before we hit the road is the new stereo that I got has provisions for front and rear camera, so I want to wire that up. So let's get to it. I'm not going to do a time lapse of the headliner removal. If you want to see me redoing my headliner, I'll link my video of that down in the description. I'll just bring you in and give you highlights as we go. Here's the headliner I want to keep. So in the busted Jeep, I just need this for the dome light. So I'm going to come in here and just clip these three wires with the plug. Let's see if you can see that. There we go. Doink. Got it. Here's the dome light plug for the dome light, and this is just how I need to wire it together. And then this will plug into my factory harness, and this will plug into the dome light, and everything should work great. Okay, I measured it out. I found I had to add an extra foot of wire, so soldered on both ends, use the same color wire. So I left this little bit you can see and this little bit you can see, and then just black wire taped everything else. You'll never know. So far so good. This looks like a nightmare, but there's some sort of organization there. That was all pulled up so that I could run the power cable to the GMRS radio that'll sit right here. So I got the antenna wire. This is all cabling for the dome and the remote door locks. For the overhead console, it's a different bracket, so you have to take that bracket off, steal the bracket out of the other XJ. This last one was riveted in the other XJ, so I had to grind off the rivet, but these two holes were the same, and so it lined up perfectly. The insulation was already there. That was a nice little surprise. Ready to get the new, I guess the not new, but headliner from the busted XJ over here, and started to get it installed. All right, let's get to it. Got the front skid plate installed. It was a lot easier than I thought. Only needed minor clearance for where it mounts. It is a stock XJ Upcountry skid plate, and that is actually really beef. It's not gonna save me from mangling my steering, but it will certainly deflect large volumes of water hitting the alternator, which I believe is one of the reasons alternators go out on these Jeeps. Rear battery is done. This is just a cover so that nothing lands on it and arcs it out, but I installed a voltage meter on it, just topping her off before the trip, and got the DC to DC charger tucked away back in the back there. Everything's all wired up and ready to go. I've got the backup camera wired into the reverse lights, power, ground, so now when they kick on, it'll kick the power on to the reverse camera. Check out that 10.5-inch screen. It's ridiculous. I can do all the overlandy things now. Front camera tucked away, hidden. Rear camera tucked away and protected. No, I'm not going to tow anything. And of course, this ridiculously large screen stereo. Got a front camera. And there it goes. Backup camera. Oh yeah. And while we're in here, show you I got the headliner done. GMRS radio installed and ready. Got my plaid headliner. And she's looking great. Last thing, driver's door fixed. Done. Mission complete. Side quests completed, and completed. Sad face, but that's okay. We won't need it for the mountains of Colorado. We'll get those done when we get back. And that is going to conclude this video. I'm just going to have to make do with as far as I got, because just like that, we're in the San Juan Mountains. But that's for another story. You'll have to like and subscribe so you can catch the next one. Thanks for watching.